Okay, so now, what have I done? Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen, but I'm not sure you have a way to advance. The little down button might be showing.
Oh Lordy, I'm sorry everybody.
It's okay. It's, you know, we're
okay.
Perfect.
Let's move that across, and then today's webinar is about journal writing. So 24th of March 2016, I'm Mary-Louise Bertram. I'm in Perth, Australia, and we also are lucky enough to have Dr. Caroline Musselwhite. Where are you, Caroline?
I'm in Phoenix, Arizona today.
Oh, well, there you go. I love that we have to say where we are today. Okay, so we're going to talk about journaling because journaling happens in lots of classrooms and houses around the world, and lots of teachers, early childhood teachers, elementary school teachers, high school teachers are wanting to know how they can support their students with complex communication needs who use AAC and alternative pencils to join in with journaling. So today we're going to learn about how to incorporate AAC and alternative pencils and alphabet access into journal writing. So in Maureen Never's 5 steps, journaling fits into the teaching and tasks letter T. So we're teaching students how to use their AAC and the alphabet during journaling. Okay. Down. And Caroline, brilliant quotes here.
Yeah, you can go ahead and just read those.
About what is journaling. It's an instructional tool useful across the entire curriculum. While often used as a class startup activity, it is used primarily to give students an opportunity to speculate on paper, confident that their ideas, observations, emotions and writing will be accepted without criticism. That's from about.com, Journals in the Classroom. Second quote, the free writing experience of journal writing is perhaps the most productive component in terms of language development and student interest in the early grades. When your students write in their journals, they write what is important to them. From B. Johnson. And this is why journaling is done in all so many classrooms around the world, because we're teaching children to share their ideas, to write about what's meaningful for them, and to fall in love with writing, fall in love with getting the ideas out of their head and sharing it. And that's why we do it in so many classrooms. One of the questions that I wanted to really answer in this webinar is what is journaling and what is it not, because in a lot of the webinars and in the 4 Blocks books and in the balanced literacy programs, there's, for so many of our families and our professionals, there's so many kind of buzzwords about different styles of writing, and it can get very overwhelming and very confusing of, well, how does journaling fit in, and what's writing without standards, and how is this different, and how is a journal different to a remnant book, and how do we use them together? So Caroline, if you just want to read through this next couple of slides and explain.
We just had
sorry, you go.
Yeah, we just had such a great conversation about this. It was really fun. So Mary-Louise and Aaron and I had this wonderful email conversation going about, you know, how it can be just so confusing. So we thought, let's take some of the buzzwords we use in our field and say, is this part of journaling? How does this fit into journaling, or is it just completely different? So sometimes you hear us talking about writing without standards. That's where the students are writing and we're looking at the content, and we're not freaking out if it's misspelled and trying to get them to fix that spelling or if there's a grammar error. And so that's what we talk about when writing without standards. That's typically more something that's done as kids are becoming conventional writers. They're starting to write and we can read what they're writing, but we're still not worried if they spell cat, K-A-T. We're thrilled. In fact, we're thrilled if they spelled K-T. We're not freaking out about all those what's correct, what's perfect. We're teaching them there in that learning process. We know that so many of our students use remnant books so beautifully as conversation starters, as reminders of really special things. So a remnant book might have a ticket from a movie you went to, or it might have a leaf from the day that you went walking, or it might have a hospital bracelet because you had to be in the hospital and you want people to know about this. And so it's just a great reminder of experiences, good and bad experiences, but things that the students might want to talk about. And so it's a great topic setter for writing too. So a lot of times when students are trying to decide what to write about, they'll go back to their remnant books. Personal experience stories are what are typically done with writing about your personal experiences based on discussion, based on photos, and that's typically at a little bit higher level than journal writing. And so that's typically something that's done to write a whole sequence of events, and you're talking about, you know, first we got our tickets and then we went into the zoo and that type of thing. So that's a little bit more sophisticated. So we'll go on to the next slide. And also what it's not, co-plan sequence social scripts. So Linda Burkhart and I have written a book, and we did a webinar a few weeks ago, and I just gave you the webinar link for that in case you missed it. So co-plan sequence social scripts are not really about writing so much. They're about having a conversation that's more than just one or two words. And so it's co-written by that student and a partner, and the goal is social communication. Now, often when we're preparing a social script, we'll write out the parts so that kids see it, but it's not really the student. We're just co-planning something that they're going to share orally, or often maybe as a Pictello story. About Me books typically are written for a student to support their interest in reading, and so they can share it with their friends. They can have a shared focus, and they can learn more about a particular topic, or share information about themselves. Okay, next. So what are we talking about in terms of journaling? And Mary-Louise, I'm going to let you jump in here.
Okay. So we're talking about the child or the student, the young adult, whoever it is, generating writing about something that they've chosen. Now, in some classrooms, when the students are doing their journals, it will be, and we'll talk about it in a moment, about how you can choose their own topics. There will be some times when you can have a journal that is teacher-led. So say you've had a field trip to the zoo, then the next day everyone might write a journal entry about the zoo. If you have some, the snake man comes to visit the classroom, then you've taken heaps of photos of all the kids with the snakes and the lizards. Then the next day you might want to have a look at all those photos and write about Snake Man's visit. So it can be about teacher directed, but the student is still in charge of choosing a little bit about that. But you're not saying you have to write about when you went to the zoo and when you laughed when you saw the meerkat stand up. It's like, okay, we're writing about the zoo, let's have a look at what we did at the zoo. You can choose where you're going to go from there. It always includes the alphabet. We have to remember that the students are going to be using their AAC systems to talk about the topic first, to talk about what they're going to write, to get those creative juices flowing. But it's important to offer the alphabet for the student to write. So we really want to hit home that we're using our AAC to talk about what we're going to write about, but our actual writing is coming from the alphabet. So for many of our students who are emergent in their communication and emergent in their writing, or for our students who are more solid in their AAC use but emergent in their writing is going to look like scribbling. And that's okay, that's what we want. We want lots and lots of writing opportunities about fun and meaningful things so that you can get better at writing. And as smart partners, peers or adults, family members, support staff, teachers, assistants, we're going to model and give feedback about this writing and this talking. So the logistics of journaling. When does it happen? What do you do? In some classes, it's just on Mondays. But, okay, on Mondays we write about what we did on the weekend. In other classes, it might be 3 to 5 times a week, depending on how the teacher and the team decide to do it. It usually takes between 5 and 15 minutes. For many of our early learners, it's quick, talk, write, quick feedback, bang, done. This needs to be powerful for the student, enjoyable, and for many of our students, it's going to be quick. We want this to be interesting, exciting, and done. It's not to be drawn out. It's not painful. It's not torturous. It's not boring. We want this to be part of learning to love writing, learning to love talking about things that you've done and writing about it. So as we said, it can be an adult chosen topic or a student chosen topic. So we have students in general ed classrooms, we have students in special ed classrooms, and we have students at home who are all doing journal writing. So what we're going to talk about today can be done in any of those classrooms. Anything you wanted to add to that,
No,
Caroline?
that's great.
So more about the logistics. Our students talk about their topic. So if we've had the snake man come to visit and we've all had a look at the pythons and the frogs and the lizards, how are you going to talk about it? So you have to have a robust AAC system. The children have to have a robust AAC system for them to use, and the adults have to have robust AAC systems for them to model and for them to use in the classroom. So even if you're in a classroom where no children are using their AAC expressively very much yet, as staff, you are going to have robust AAC systems to model, all the modelling that we've been talking about in the series. So you might be modelling light tech on the pod books or core vocab boards where it's reliant on a smart partner to voice the student's communication, or you might be using a high-tech system, AAC, on a communication device. So that's talking about the topic. We're talking with the AAC. We're going to be writing with the alphabet. So the students need access to the alphabet, every single letter of the whole alphabet, the whole alphabet, which in my brain at this time of night gets merged to the whole alphabet. So we're going to use an alternative pencil. So if our students are not yet at the stage, or maybe really struggle with writing using a pen that's legible, then we're going to give them the whole alphabet in all sorts of different forms, like flip charts and keyboards, and we'll talk a bit more about that later. But that can be light tech and high tech as well, but it has to include every single letter of the alphabet. So Caroline, do you want to go through these slides about the alternative pencils?
Sure. And I don't want to spend an enormous amount of time. We're just trying to give a little background information that there are lots of alternative pencils out there. And this shows, for example, some eye gaze and a Braille alternative pencil. For most of the students we work with, we're going to use something such as a flip chart, which is in the upper right. And these are all available from a CD. Thanks, Mary-Louise. That was developed by Dr. Gretchen Hanser, and it's sold by the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies. So we'll be sharing we just wanted to share that out so you could see what it looks like. But now we're going to show you the types of pencils that are really likely to be used by most students who have Angelman's syndrome. So let's just look at the next slide. So this is an alphabet flip chart. Some students use that. It would be used if you have a hard time pointing to an alphabet with smaller letters. So some of our students can point to these because they're larger. Other students, we might need to hold this up for them, and then a partner, that smart partner, goes through one at a time and points and says, points to the A, to the B, to the C, to the D, and the child indicates yes when they're picking the one that they want. If they don't pick anything on that page, we can ask them, should I turn the page? And then we go to the next page, which of course would have E, F, G, H. So that's just called an alphabet flip chart. And the next one shows a QWERTY alpha board.
Sure.
And this is a one-pager. This is available in the files on the Angelman Communication Series Facebook group. That has been put up there. If you can't find it, let me know. I'll be sure to repost it. But you can see this looks like the alphabet on a keyboard. So it's really nice because it's light tech. And so if you're not exactly on it, it doesn't matter, and you don't have to worry about hitting too many E's and so forth. So you can also help kids. Sometimes if a parent is showing something, they might use a little cover-up to hide all but 4 or 5 of the letters, to just highlight that I'm trying to find the letter R for run. And so we can just manipulate this in lots of ways, and it's real portable and easy to use. And there's some symbols at the bottom for saying things like, I have something to say and I need more time, don't hurry me. So just a little bit of communication along with this alpha board. And the next page shows the alphabet in alphabetic order, which seems to be easier for some of the students who are really just beginning with the alphabet. That might be easier for some students to start with that. And on the reverse side of each of these would be the capital letters. So you're seeing the lowercase, but then the capital letters would be available in the reverse. So again, this is has been posted at the Angelman Communication Series Facebook page. And next. So if you want to know more about these and also some high-tech keyboards, then just go to my Pinterest page. We're not going to talk about using high-tech alphabets right now. A lot of your students who have a light-tech alphabet set, such as a pod book, will already have an alphabet page on there, so that's what you would want to use. Some of our students who have an app such as Proloquo will have a keyboard, and that might be useful for them if that's easily accessible by that student. So just lots of ideas for accessing the alphabet. And you might also want to go back and watch the webinar we did a couple of weeks ago on learning the alphabet, interactive alphabet use, because that'll give you some more ideas about how to teach the alphabet in really interactive, fun, authentic ways. Right now we're talking about using the alphabet to write during journaling. Okay, next.
All right, so now you've got the idea that you need a robust AAC system, and you need access to the whole alphabet. So let's talk about the process of journal writing. So when we're doing journal writing, we've got the before, the during, and the after. So before we actually do any writing, we're going to set a purpose for the writing. And we'll talk about this in a bit more detail in a moment. During the actual journal experience, we're going to use our AAC to say something about the topic, then we're going to use our alphabet to write about it. After the student has written in the journal, then the adult is going to give some informative feedback about that scribbling, about that writing. So we'll go through this in more detail. It's really important that before any journaling lesson, especially for our emergent writers and our emergent AAC users, that if we're doing a journal experience in class or at home, that the children are seeing a model of what actually is going on first. I go into some classrooms and it's like, okay, bang, journal time, off you go. And so the students go back to their desk with their education assistant, and boom, they're meant to magically know what to do. And then the student refuses to pick a topic, decides they don't want a bar of this, and they've had no models of how awesome this is, what they need to do, what the process is. So this is where, before the child actually sits down and does their journal, we're going to sit there and go, oh my goodness, guess what? I've got something to say. I've got my journal ready. I might use my interactive whiteboard. I might use a giant piece of paper up the front. I might use a scrapbook that I've got my journal. So my job as the adult modelling first is to do exactly what I'm expecting the student to do. Choose a topic of something to write about. Use the AAC system, and if I've got 3 different AAC systems in the class, then I'm going to take turns throughout my journaling lessons of using the different ones. So today, my journaling model today, I might use Sam's pod book. On Wednesday, I might use Hannah's Prolo Quote to Go, but I'm getting models of how each student is going to do this. So I'm going to set a topic, I'm going to use the AAC system to say something about the topic, and then I'm going to model using the alternative pencil that my students are going to use to write a sentence about my topic. So here you go. I'm at the front of the class, and my job now is to model how to choose a topic of something to write about. So, all right, look at my topics. I've taken some photos of being on the farm on the weekend. I'm going to have a look at these photos. I've got a photo of me with a frog that I found in the garden. Ooh, I've got a photo of me with a calf that I fed a bottle to. And I've got a post-it note that says none of those. So I've got those 2 photos there, and my very important post-it note that says none of those. So if I don't want any of those, then that post-it note will magically bring some other options in, which is very important for our students to see that they're not just having to choose between 2 things. They always have to have a none of those or something different option. So I'm going to say, I really liked when I reached into the garden and I felt that frog. So I'm going to choose the photo of me with the frog. And there I am. So I've got the frog, and I'm going to use my pod today, my high-tech pod. I'm going to think about something to say about the frog. Ooh, and I remember the frog feels wet. I remember him on my hand, and the frog feels wet. So that's what I'm thinking about when I'm going to write. So I've spoken, I've talked about this, I've modelled choosing what I'm going to write about, I've modelled using the AAC system, I've shown how I could talk about that, and now I'm going to write about it. Now, if I've got students who are more transitional or conventional in their journal writing, I might write a whole sentence such as the frog feels wet using a keyboard or alphabet page, a QWERTY page. If I've got very, very emergent readers and writers, emergent communicators, children who are very new to this and it needs to be quick, bang, out we go, then I'm going to be modelling. I might have spoken with my AAC, or the frog feels wet, but I don't have to then spend the next 10 minutes using an alternative pencil to write that whole sentence, because it's going to get very boring very fast for my kids who need this to be moving on. Because I don't want them fading before they then have to do their own journal writing. So I might choose to write a whole sentence, or I might just model, I'm going to write wet, W, go back to page 1, A, B, C, D, no, turn the page, E, F, G, H, yes, E, need an E, go through, T. It was wet. I'm going to write the word wet. So I've said something about it, and I've written maybe one word. I might not even choose to write the word wet that I talked about. I might have said, the frog felt wet, and I might write the word cool. This was so cool. I'm going to write the word cool. We have to remember that the children might not write exactly what they've spoken about. And when you're thinking about journal writing with students who are AAC language learners and alternative pencil users, I want you to think back to if you've ever worked with typical children doing their journals, or maybe your own children when they've been writing something. They might be doing, you'll be in a typical pre-primary or grade 1 class, and you'll say to a student, all right, tell me about what you want to write about today. And they could talk about Lego for 5 minutes. Well, I got this Lego, and it was Star Wars Lego, and it was Darth Vader, and he looked like this, and he was black, and they'll go on, and when it comes to writing it, they might just write Darth Vader or I like Lego, because the gap between what their oral language can produce and what their written language can produce is huge. So we have to remember that it's okay to be talking about getting the juices flowing and be saying lots and lots of words and lots of sentences, but then writing very simple things. So we can model for our early learners how to say something, but then also how to write something very quick, very simple. So now I've done my journal, I've talked about it, I've chosen a topic, I've written something, woohoo! I've done my journal for the day. Oh, I'm so proud of what I've written today. I'm going to stick that up there, and some people might be able to have a look at that later. And now it's time for you to go off and write in your journal. So now the students are going to go off. And they might be working with a peer, they might be working on their own if they're more transitional to conventional, or they might be working with an education assistant. So again, it's the child's turn now. So they're going to set a topic for their writing. So they might have photographs that have been sent in from home that they can choose, if photographs in a box they can look through and think, oh, maybe I like this. They might use their AAC to tell about a topic. You might have a student who you can say, what would you like to write about today? And they can say, I went zoo. Great, off you go. But for most of our emergent AAC users, they might want to say, I went to the zoo on the weekend, but they don't know how to say it in their AAC yet. So what we're doing is getting families to send in photos, email through photos of what they've done on the weekend. We're taking photos of what we do during the week in class. So there's lots and lots of prompts for the students to write about. And if they do choose a photo of them at the zoo on the weekend, then we can model, oh, look, that's when you went places, the zoo. Wow, you're going to write about places, the zoo. So we're modeling how they could say that next time. The student is going to use their AAC system to say something about the topic, and then they're going to use their alphabet. So they're doing the exact same process that we just did. Topic, talking, writing. Carolyn, do you just want to talk about this goal?
Sure. There are a lot of really lovely goals that the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies has developed, and you can go download those if you're interested in getting some great goals. And this is one for topic setting. Given daily opportunities to write about self-selected, personally meaningful topics using the appropriate assistive technologies, the student will independently choose a topic from his home, school, log, photo journal, or other source on 4 or 5 days with decreasing levels of prompting. So it's exactly what Mary-Louise was just talking about, that we're going to give them lots of options. And I love what Mary-Louise said about helping teachers understand that, yes, we may all be talking about what happened when the snake eye came, but that you get to choose your own little part about it. That we want to make this be as student-driven as we possibly can. And that's why having that in the goal is as much for us teachers and therapists and parents as it is for the children. That first part is about self-selected, personally meaningful topics just sets that up, that we're helping people understand that we don't say the prompt today is leprechauns are cute because, that we don't do that. That's not journaling. That is something teachers might do at some point during the day, but that is not journaling because it may not be personally meaningful. So this really just sets that whole idea that it's personally meaningful, and then helps give ideas of how we might give kids the choices, and always having the opportunity to say, you know, I really need something different. Because typical kids are often drawing pictures, and our students can't often draw pictures. But what they can do sometimes is to tell people to draw them for them. So there was just a delightful, I know that when Mary-Louise, you might want to tell the story about how you taught Kate's classroom to draw stuff for her, so that one time she asked them to draw a picture of her mother and herself, and then she wrote about that. And they just drew little figures, but it was her idea.
Yeah, it was gorgeous because she just chose a friend. Okay, I want to write about mum today, and I choose Sally, could you please draw a picture of me and my mum? And that was a gorgeous way of Kate working with her group and her contributions being valued. And then, of course, Kate had something to contribute to that other student later on in the day. It wasn't, oh, I have to draw a picture for Kate. It's like, okay, Kate's asked me to draw the picture. I'm not going to just go over there and draw it for her because she can't draw. I'm going over there because she has specifically asked me to do this, and then she's going to do the writing. And what I really love about this goal, and we've had this come up in numerous IEP meetings over the last couple of years since we've been using the centre's goals, is that when students are refusing to engage in writing, when they're refusing to choose topics, and this is the goal, and they say, you know, we can't do this anymore because we're giving the daily opportunities and they're not doing anything, we're having to increase the prompts, it's becoming a behavioural thing. We can go back to, all right, well, let's look at that first part of the sentence. Is it self-selected? Is it personally meaningful? And it needs to come back to, maybe it's not. There are many of our students who would write about Minecraft or Lego every single day in every single topic. So that's when we need to start thinking about, okay, well, today we're going to do a music journal, and, you know, it's not an option to write about Lego or Minecraft. We're going to write about, we're all going to listen to different pieces of music. This was a beautiful idea from Jane Farrell. We're all going to listen to different pieces of music, and I'm going to take photos of how you all are during the different pieces of music, and then we're going to write a music journal for our classroom. So when we change the topics up a bit and give a bit more scaffolding, rather than the student always writing about Lego or being really cross because now they're not allowed to write about Lego because suddenly the Lego picture isn't there because the teacher's like, well, I can't give you the Lego picture because he all writes about Lego. We're going to switch it up. But guess what? Nobody's writing about Lego today because we're all writing about music. But it might be personally meaningful to you that this music was completely boring, and look at you sitting there, or look at you rocking out, look at you playing air guitar, but you're picking the picture, you're picking what you want to contribute about that music topic. So here we go, the child, so this is one that, a variation on a theme that we had last year. The child selected a topic, so the child can draw a picture, or like we talked about, get someone else to draw a picture. They can select a photo, choose an event from their remnant books. They might be flicking through their remnant book and going, oh, pointing to that one. Oh, yes, I want to write about that. For this particular child, they chose, the mum had sent in some photos, and they chose a picture of fairy bread. Now, this is a very Australian birthday party food, and essentially it's just sprinkles on white bread with butter. So, you know, the most healthy birthday food that you could probably have, but very Australian, every kid's birthday party has fairy bread. So they had a photo of the fairy bread. So it was the child's time now to talk about what they want to write about. So this is not the time when the adult is writing anything in the child's journal yet. This is when you're talking about, oh, wow, look, I can see you've chosen a picture of a fairy bread. Oh, my goodness, I wonder what you want to say about this. And the child's using his AAC, and he's gone to his special events page, and he said, birthday party, go, birthday get. So you're talking about this, oh, you had a birthday party and fairy bread. I'm looking, you've said birthday party. Wow, did you go to a birthday party? Maybe you got some fairy bread. Is that what you would like to write about? You know, I go birthday party, I get fairy bread. Yes, nodding your head. Okay, fabulous. Let's write about this. So we've, the child has written it in their AAC language. We've helped scaffold it into English and into spoken English if we want to. We're not going to write that sentence, go to birthday party, get fairy bread, in the child's journal because we don't want to give them a model of writing to copy. If they're copying, it's not writing. So we might write that on a post-it note to help us remember. So we might write, go to birthday party, get fairy bread on a post-it note. We're going to say, wow, you know, oh my goodness, I can't wait to see your writing about this fairy bread and this birthday party. Let's get your alternative pencil, let's get your flip chart, and it's time to write in your journal. So here we go. So now we've got the flip chart in front of the child, their alternative pencil, and they're going to point to the letters and we are going to write it in their journal. If we are the scribe, then they're pointing to the letter B and we are writing it in their journal. So if this student has chosen the letters B, B, P, F, B, P, N, 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 G, F, F with some spaces in between. So this is their scribble, this is their journal writing, this is their brilliant, self-selected, personally meaningful writing about fairy bread. So remembering that they might have written this sentence in their mind, might be that exact sentence, go to fairy bread, go to birthday party, get fairy bread. But thinking back to what happens when typical children are writing, then, you know, I might have wanted to write about the fairy bread, but now I'm actually writing about something else that's happened at the party. So we can't see inside the child's head. We don't know they've written that exact sentence. But what we can do is talk to them about it. So I'm not going to write in that child's journal. There are some teachers and staff who will then write that sentence, go to birthday party, get fairy bread. Oh, this is what you said you were going to write about. Go to birthday party, get fairy bread. I'm going to write that underneath your writing. Some teachers do write in the child's actual journal, but many teachers feel that, well, it's not my place to write in your journal, so I'm going to write this on a post-it note and stick it in your journal, and then you can take it off if you don't want it there. But I can put that on there, and then I can start ascribing meaning. So if it's on the post-it note or on a separate piece of paper and I've stuck it underneath, then I can now say, oh my goodness, you talked about going to a birthday party. Look, there's a B in birthday party and you used some B's, and a P for party, party, and look, there is a P for party. Going to a birthday, party, and you get, oh, there's a G, I can use a G to write get. You got some fairy bread. Oh, look, you've got F's for fairy bread. So I'm now assigning meaning to the writing that they did. And they might say, no, that's not right, but we're at least saying, look, this is what it could be. So for many of our students, this is what we're talking about when we're assigning meaning to their writing. Remember, this is a very quick process. For some of our students, this whole process takes 4 minutes max. It's boom, boom, boom. Some students, as they get more used to it, we can take longer, but we don't want this to be painful. We don't want this to be, oh, look, there's a B. Oh, wonder how many B's you've got. 1, 2. Can you find another one? It's not a test. It's a quick thing of, oh my goodness, B for birthday party. 1, 2, 3 B's, birthday party. For many of our students in the early stages, it needs to be fun and fantastic. So that's the adult's role at this point. There are so many of our children, when we're doing this and they're early communicators and early writers, that they might have said go to birthday party, get fairy bread with their communication system. And then when they write it, there is no B's for birthday, no P's for party, no F's for fairy bread. There's nothing in their letter selection that we can go into, oh, you said go to birthday party, da, 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 da. So we can still write it underneath or use the post-it note underneath. But then, oh, that's a bit hard to see, sorry. We can then say, oh, look, you used an H. I wonder if you sang happy birthday. I might choose to write that in a post-it note, and they can scribble it and chuck it away. That's fine. Oh, well, look, you wrote M. I wonder if you went with your mum. I can use an M to write mum. Maybe you went with mum birthday party. And I'm using the AAC system to say people mum. Maybe you went with mum. Now, what happened with one of the children that we were doing this, when we scaffolded to mum, oh, maybe you went with mum. He was on the people page and he said Nana. And he happened to have an N in there. So we're like, oh, wow, maybe you went with Nana. You used an N to write Nana. So we're assigning meaning to these letters to say, guess what? This awesome writing that you've done, these are the things that you could write with it. So that's showing them the power of marrying that talking about writing. This is how you would say mum, And look, you could use this N that you've just written with your alternative pencil to actually write, Mum. Isn't that the most awesome thing, that these two things work together? So here's Kate. She's 5 here. She started using her alternative pencil at age 4, and she's got a very large flip chart here. This flip chart was designed for Kate. She liked to use her whole hand to touch the whole letter. So, you know, as Kate moves through and gets more used to using the alphabet flip chart, we can shrink that down a bit. But when we were looking at what flip charts really worked for Kate, she really liked this big one. So that's what we use. So again, it's one of Gretchen Hans's templates, just made more ginormous. So here's a sample of Kate's journal writing. So you see a G, S, E and A. And when we're talking about why does it matter to have a topic set first? Why does it matter to talk about what you're going to write about first? It matters because it supports us to give feedback to the child and to see their writing develop. So there's the JSEA, and if we go to the next page, this is what Kate was writing about, Jessie. So the feedback that we could give here is we could say, oh, look, wow, maybe you've written Jessie, Jessie. This is how I write Jessie, or this is how Disney writes Jessie, Jessie. And I might not write that on Kate's particular journal. She might not want anyone else writing on her journal, but I could write that on a post-it note and show her, or on a whiteboard and show her, this is how you've written Jessie. This is how Disney Jessie writes her name. So I'm providing that model and giving her that feedback. I'll just, before we go, when we started doing journal writing with the students, probably back in 2009 when I was lucky enough to be taught about this, we would have the students have their topic first, so they might you know, choose a picture of the snake man, and then we would say, okay, let's write about the snake man, here's your alternative pencil, and they might choose PQBS. And then we'd say, wow, tell me about your writing. And then the student would get the AAC system and tell us what they had written. And when we started doing it this way, we noticed that the cognitive load of the writing was often so enormous, and it was so new, this writing thing, that the children, they were cognitively and motorically completely fatigued by the end of the writing, and they had no oomph left and no drive left to actually tell us about their writing. So we made the switch to, okay, let's talk about it first, set your topic, and then do the writing. And that helped the children get grounded in what they were going to do, gave them some ideas of things they might like to write about, helped them think, okay, if I'm going to write about the animals, snake, let's think about snake. Started to think, okay, what word do I need? What letters do I need? There was some concern, and there's still some concern in classrooms, that if the child says they want to write about swimming and then they have a partner-assisted way of using an alternative pencil, so it might be scanning, that when the adult is scanning through the alphabet, they're going to be pausing more at letters like S for swimming, and that they're unwittingly supporting that child to choose the more correct letters for their scribbling. But that's something that we have to watch with any form of partner-assisted communication, whether it's AAC or letters, that when we're scanning, we are scanning like a computer. But it certainly helps us if we know the child's writing about swimming and they happen to choose an S, we can say, woo, you chose an S for swimming. Oh, swimming, even if they chose a P for pool. Wow, you said you were going to write about swimming, and here, look, I can see a P, and we go swimming in the pool. So it's really helped us enormously in doing journaling to get this talking done first, both for the child to get their juices flowing and for the adults to be able to provide more specific feedback about what the child then writes. So anything else you'd like to add to that, Caroline?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Okay, so I'll leave you now with Sadie's stuff.
Okay, so this is just an example of Sadie's writing journey in the first grade, and Sadie is on the right. She's there with her sister Paige, and she's using the app Proloquo to go. She's using a Light Tech alphabet and also the alphabet on her app. So if we go to the next page, we'll look at what they were doing in journaling. Actually, this is just the Light Tech one that she used. So
next one.
Yeah. So this is what happened in September. Somebody else drew some pictures for her. You can see the little picture of a girl and the sunshine, and they wrote September, and they wrote "This is me in September," and then they asked Sadie to write about it, and she took some crayons and she did some scribbling, and you can see that her scribble is including some circles and some lots of different up and down lines and so forth. So let's go to the next one and see what kind of progress we see between September and November. And in November, we can see a lot more circles. So she's getting, some more movements. She's got something that almost looks like an X. It's with two different colors. And so she's writing a lot more. But if you think about what's happening with her typical peers, I would suspect that between September and November, their writing is showing very significant progress. And it's not that Sadie doesn't have ideas. She has lots of ideas in her head. It's that using her hand to try to write is really taking more of her, it's taking a lot of her effort, and a lot of her focus is on the physical act of trying to write, and so it's really difficult. And so that doesn't mean that Sadie shouldn't continue working on handwriting, but that shouldn't be during journaling time. She should be allowed an alternative pencil so that she can have more input. So let's look at the next screen. This is in January, and I had been there and done a workshop in December and talked about using your communication system to write about things, and also about using the alphabet. And so also we talked a lot about setting topics. I mean, how open-ended is that? This is me in November. Holy cow, that could be anything. But what they've done is said, this is me in January. They gave her a number of photos, and her mama just sent them in. They're black and white photos. This is not a huge effort. And she picked this wonderful photo of going sledding with her family. And she wrote, "Who you play with, who? Dad, who you play, Paige." And so she's using her AAC system a lot to write. She's not using the alphabet at that point. And so what they've done is to print out her talking about this. What they did is took a screenshot and just printed it out and had her paste those words on there. So now let's go to the next one. And the next time they took out the pictures in the message window, so she's seeing text, so it's more like writing. So they're having a family dinner, and she says, "What you do, Auntie Pam? Pizza, cook. That looks really yummy. I like this." And I like this, I think, was a full sentence that she could choose from her Proloquo to go. And then she went to the alphabet and typed a B. And so they asked her, "Oh, Sadie, I wonder if that B was for bake." And she just was very excited and indicated that, yes, of course it's a B for bake. Now, here's the thing, people. If it wasn't a B for bake, that doesn't matter. It probably was, but if it wasn't, we're telling her that you bake this pizza, and wow, B starts for bake. So just like when Mary-Louise talked about that you put a P when you're writing about swimming, it might not have been intentional. We're attributing meaning. I think that's really important, to attributing meaning. And we're not going nuts. And you notice that in Mary-Louise's examples, she did not attribute meaning to every possible letter that child had written. That's just, can go crazy. Less is more when kids are just beginning. Just attributing meaning to one little part is a great way to start. So she has B for bake. And now I know they're writing on the back of her journal, they're writing their ideas. I really think the Post-it note is a better option, because you can see what you wrote and you can see my feedback, but like Mary-Louise said, you can also take it away. It's very clear what Sadie wrote and the feedback that somebody else gave her. So I really think that the Post-it note is a much better option. So let's go to the next screen. And oh, there was one more that I guess we took out by mistake. But anyway, just that she'd done some examples of having her family. She had a picture where they were all swimming, and I think I took it out by mistake. They were all swimming, and she had written MMMPIO D. And they said, oh, I see a lot of M's, and she pointed to her mom. And so they made an arrow to say, oh, you were writing an M for mom. Oh, that's super. So you want to tell me anything else? And then she points to the P and touches this picture of her sister Paige. And so they make an arrow going from P to Paige to show that that P stands for Paige. And then, of course, she is very excited, and she got to touch the D, and then she pointed to the picture of her dad, and so they drew an arrow there as well. So that she's showing that my letters have meaning to me. And so she's starting to take the ownership in attributing meaning and showing where that goes. So let's go to the next slide, talking about summarizing journal writing. So Mary-Louise, you've talked about this a little bit, but I think a little more is great.
Yes, so we talked about the music journal idea that Jane Farrell contributed. Another overarching topic that some classes do might be the book of the week. So they're trying to bring some cross-curricular ideas in, that it might be a history book that you're looking at. So the overarching theme of our journal is going to be our book of the week, but each student is going to choose something that's particularly meaningful or that they want to do about that little topic. So one student might like to write about their favourite part. Another student might write about their favourite character or the character they hated the most. Someone else might like to write about their opinion, and then we're going to put all these together, bind it into a journal and make something for our class library. A lot of our classrooms are doing science journals. So again, they're bringing literacy into the science block, reviewing science experiments, collating the journal entries, getting an idea about how we can share about our learning journey in science through our writing. So it's not that on Mondays we sit down and write journals because it's a blog. How are we bringing this into other curriculums? When we come back from holidays, it's Easter holidays. Okay, what are you going to be writing about on Tuesday? If you did something on Friday and you might want to write about that on Tuesday. There are many of our literacy students that so many things have happened between Friday and Tuesday, I might really not remember what I did on Friday. So I'm going to be asking families to just shoot through an email with a couple of photos of what you did over the Easter weekend, because guess what, we're going to be writing about Easter next week. And then we might want to do a big display board of photos of things that we did on Easter and some of our writing. So all the different ideas of writing about journals and creating books for our classroom, trying to get this cross-curricular thing so it's not just a job of, oh, I have to sit down because it's 10 o'clock on a Monday and we have to do journals. That we're bringing this in through the week and we're keeping it fresh, we're keeping it new, and we're keeping it exciting and fun. Caroline, do you want to talk about this one?
Oh, I loved your ideas on this, so you keep going, Mary-Louise.
Well, I was talking about, I can't find the photo, which is a shame, but for many of our students in early childhood, kindergarten, pre-primary, prep, first grade, they do this daily journal and suddenly it kind of peters off, or, well, that's kind of what we did in early childhood. We don't do daily writing then. For our teenagers, they might not want to be doing scrapbooks and exercise books, but we can do daily journals and all sorts of journals. We can have a class blog. We can have a lot of schools might have a private sort of Twitter-like account when you're taking a photo and you're sending some, putting some writing there, and then you're sending it out. How can we do this with our older students? Instagram, there are a couple of apps, and I'll have to ask some of our teachers to contribute what they use. So we have a lot of adults who are in literacy clubs here, some fantastic literacy clubs, and they're wanting to share their ideas with others, and they're going to be using Facebook, Instagram, Twitter to be doing this. And so, yeah, we can collate these together. We can have a thread of things. And it's really exciting to get this kind of journal feedback of, oh, I'm doing a blog about this and I'm contributing this, and let's do a flipogram of everyone's different screenshots of their writing, and let's put it on our Facebook page. And then for our students who like, you know, fast moving photographs, a flipogram of 5 kids writing can be really gorgeous, and if it keeps popping up on your closed Facebook page or the kind of things. But how can we freshen this up? How can we use apps like Pic Collage to do this? And Caroline, you use Pic Collage a lot, if you want to chime in with that.
Yeah, so I don't want to get like off on a tangent on apps, but how about if I just connect you to a blog I wrote about using Pic Collage, and so I'll put that
Yes,
at the Facebook page.
Fabulous. What's the next one? Oh, so we talked about this, about what we've certainly learned here on our journey of, do we talk then write, do we write then talk? And as it stands at the moment, what we've found works best is talking with AAC first and then writing. But it may be that in your class you try lots of different things and you see what works. Now, what's the next one? Okay, so go for it, Caroline.
Yeah, I just wanted a little bit of just summary that our plan A for the after part is to sort of attribute meaning, and we just do this so naturally for typically developing children, and sometimes we forget to do this for our students who use AAC and can't tell us. So it gives that meaning to random attempts that oh look, that they're doing fairy bread, but then there was an M, and so we get to talk about, was Mom at the party? No, it was Nana. So that's a way but Mary-Louise attributed meaning, saying, oh, were you with your mom? M stands for mom. And even though the answer is no, that was a little teachable moment for her to teach in a really authentic way that M stands for mom. And then they said, nope, it's Nana. And then she's like, oh my gosh, well, you have an N here. That N could stand for Nana. Maybe it didn't, maybe it didn't. It doesn't matter. We've given that connection to that meaning. It's not always as natural for our students. Sometimes people try to extinguish, oh, look, you're supposed to write about fairy bread and there's no F there. No, that's not what we want to be doing. We won't want to like extinguish a behavior. We want to build on what they did. So we're just making links between their writing and their experiences. So if you go to the next slide, when we were talking, we talked a lot, we did a lot of, but what if? You can't think of any reasonable feedback, and there are going to be times that you're looking at it, and I mean, there are no bones to make soup with, and you're going, oh dear, no worries, just have fun picking a letter in their scribble and talking about it. Talk about it, how it reflects to their life. So maybe you found a J and you say, oh my gosh, I see you have a J. Jack is your very best friend, and his name starts with J. So we're making connections. There are a lot of letters. Maybe you can steal some and use them to write a word. Stealing letters is an idea from Karen Erickson, who's a director of the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies. It is so much fun. Kids love it when I steal their letters. I'm stealing one of your letters so I can write something about fairy bread. I am stealing the M because M stands for it's so good, right? So that's the way you can make some connections. So next.
That's lovely.
That's
really lovely.
Thanks. But what if they just pick a photo, they point to one letter, and they're done. They're out of here. Don't worry about it. They gave us a bone to make soup with. Whatever that one letter is, we're going to have fun with it. But remember, it also means that maybe we need to spend more time having them talk first, and then they'll have more ideas. Maybe we're just focusing too much on just the alphabet piece and not on the conversation about the picture they chose piece. And maybe we weren't modeling enough. That is another reason why we see kids not getting so excited about it. So the next screen.
Oh, sorry, Caroline, just on this note, I think it's really good that you brought up the conversation, the word conversation, because so easily this can turn into an interrogation. what are you writing about? Come on, tell me what you're writing about. And the child's like, well, I actually don't know, or I do know, but I don't know how to say it. So starting to model first, of, oh my goodness, you've picked a picture of, I think that's awesome. You can scaffold them to some pages, and you're modeling, but this is a conversation. This is about the power of AAC. This is about the awesomeness of writing. This is not sit down, this is the time to do it. This is an interrogation because I need letters, I need a sample, come on, let's do it.
Absolutely. And I think we hope that that's been an underlying theme of our entire series is conversation, not interrogation. That we're not being directors, we're being conversation partners. What if they don't participate at all? Of course that's tougher, but what it tells me usually is that we need to do a better job of modeling, that maybe we're not modeling, and that peers modeling, oh my gosh, when peers come and use your alternative pencil, it's like a velveteen rabbit for alternative pencils. It makes them become real. Now the student cares about using it if their peers are also using it. That can be really powerful. And also having more fun and making it look, step back and look at what we're doing. Are we doing directing? Are we demanding? Are we interrogating? Because if we are, that may be why they're shutting down. It may be that we're not making this fun. So next. Okay, Mary-Louise.
Okay, so possible next steps. Have a look at the handout, share it with your team, share it with your families, share the webinar link. Hopefully we can get some good discussion going about this in the Communication Training Series Facebook group. Look for some of our keywords, think about how you're going to get the AAC for chatting about the topic, making sure you've got an alternative pencil for writing about it, how you're going to get ideas for the child to write about. Are you going to connect with the families at home to get photos? You know, you're going to get a photo bank happening at photos at school. Are you going to start a remnant book for children to write about, to choose topics? We've got another webinar next week. And I'd just like to say an enormous thank you to Erin and Maureen and Caroline. Enormous thank you to the ASF Communication Training Series, which is made available by the Angelman Syndrome Foundation and a generous grant from the Foster Family Charitable Foundation, a family foundation established in Central California. And I think what we're at. And then we're back again. Okay, so any questions? Are you there? Do I turn back to you?
So if you have a question, just type it in and or raise your hand if you want to ask orally, and Amy will read out the questions to us, or we'll turn it over to you.
We don't have any questions yet. I love the no bones to make soup with reference. I've never heard that one before. I love it. Okay, we do.
That's a southern saying.
How do you approach it when a child selects a photo but does not yet use an AAC device independently to say something about a particular topic?
Mary-Louise, I'll let you take that.
Well, I suppose, are they not using it independently because they use partner access, or are they really, really early in their AAC journey and still sort of focused on modelling, not so much the expressive language? I know that for a lot of our students, when they're really early and they're not using it expressively very much, they might choose a picture of them playing, you know, the dog at the beach on the weekend, and we might be modelling, oh wow, it looks like you went to the dog, here's a dog, you went to the beach, I've got an opinion to say about this, I think this is awesome. So we might scaffold that child in the very early days to an opinion. I wonder if you've got an opinion about this, and we're looking for any subtle forms of communication to say, oh yes, actually I do have something to say. Oh, I think it's awesome. I'm looking at the look on your face in this photo. you think it's pretty cool, or maybe it's a bit scary because it's windy, and you're looking for that, as Linda Burkhart says, that change of affect, that if you say, oh, it's windy and scary, oh, maybe you'd like to write about how it's windy and scary. So you're looking for that change of affect in that student that says, yes, that's the thing I want to say, but here are some ideas of how I can say it. But in the very, very early stages in the classrooms, it's the teacher and the teacher assistants who are doing lots of modelling about this, of all the things you could say, and giving the children ideas of what they could say and supporting, oh, maybe you'd like to say this or this or this, or but that's kind of what we've done in the very early days. Caroline, what do you have to?
I'm 100% in agreement with you, and just making sure that I just want to remind you again that we don't write down what we've said as ideas to show to the child, because we don't want them copying. Now, it's fine if you write down your notes for yourself and keep it, because you're thinking, then I might reflect on that when I see what they wrote. But just making sure you're not setting up a copying situation, and that you're having that conversation and having it be fun and interactive, and not feel like have them be deer in headlights that I have to answer this question. Especially if we're working with students who have apraxia, when we put them on the hot spot, we've just made it harder for them to answer instead of easier. So we want to just be very, very conversational and have a lot of fun with this and have it be engaging. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't feel like writing is fun, then we haven't succeeded.